Hi, and welcome back to Heart and Health Wellness. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Welch, and I'm so glad that you're here today. Today, we're going to talk all about how you know when your goals have been completed, how you know you've been successful, and what it really means to be able to move beyond this goal onto the next step. So if you're brand new here, welcome to the show. It's all about how you balance your physical health with your mental health, your relationships, and your spirituality that gives you meaning and purpose in life. And so we kind of look at how all of that works together. And we've been spending the last several weeks talking about how to set goals for yourself, how to track your progress along the way, last week we talked about how to keep that momentum going once you see those initial signs of success. And like I said, today we're going to talk about how you know that you've really accomplished that goal and you're ready to move on. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. So the first thing that I want to do is talk about how we can view goals as projects that are short-term phases that are going to lead us in the right direction to meet our long-term vision for our lives. And so when we're talking about SMART goals, we're going to break that down here in just a second and asking ourselves these questions if we've been successful. Remember that this is a short-term piece of the puzzle for a much larger long-term project or vision that we're working toward. And Reggie, of course, has to say hi. If you're watching, you get to see her. And if you're listening, just know that my cat jumped up to join us. Okay, so we're going to talk about what SMART goals are first. So I believe we covered this early in episode 1 or 2, but we're going to review it today because it's an important part not only to use the SMART acronym when you're setting goals for yourself, but also when you're evaluating whether you've accomplished your goal to review it from this framework. And SMART goals are really just a way to help us be very specific and intentional about when we're setting goals and evaluating the success of those goals. So first of all, S is for specific. So what exactly was your goal? What were you working toward? So for example, instead of saying, I want to get healthier, maybe you said, my goal was to work out 3 times a week for 30 minutes each. And so in order to ask yourself if you've completed that goal, you could say, have I consistently done whatever that is for a set period of time? Did I actually go to the gym or go for a walk or do something in my living room for 30 minutes at least 3 times a week? And ask yourself if you can check that off and say, yes, I've completed that. The second letter is M, and that stands for measurable. What does success look like in measurable terms? So for example, if your goal was to save a certain amount of money, say $5,000 to pay off some debt or put a down payment on a house or go on a vacation, whatever it might be, success is meeting that specific number. So have you reached that metric or did you need to change it along the way? And that leads us to A, which is achievable. Was the goal realistic and did it stay that way? It's totally okay if along your journey you decided that your goal needed to be reassessed, adjusted so that it was a realistic thing for you. But did you meet that and did you continue to make it happen even if it was adjusted? So if you had to adjust the goal along the way, ask yourself, does this still count as being done? For example, I've used the 75 hard challenge as an example in the past of something that I did. And some people are going to call me out for this, but that's okay. When I was doing my 2 workouts a day, one has to be inside, or doesn't have to be inside. At least one of the workouts has to be outside, according to his original rules of what the 75 hard challenge was. But sometimes I did those in my garage, and that was for various reasons, including safety and where I was located and not feeling safe to go outside when it was dark outside. And so I did it in my garage. Some people would say, well, that doesn't count For me, it was enough of a challenge where I said it did still count. So that's an example of saying, maybe I had to modify it along the way. Does it still count? The next one is relevant. R is for relevant. Does the goal still align with your long-term vision? So maybe you aim to run a marathon, but halfway through you realized that that wasn't going to be an achievable thing for you. So you decided, I'm just going to focus on running consistently and try to enjoy the run when I do it. Very different goal, but maybe if your long-term vision is to be a quote unquote runner or someone who runs, then just going on runs consistently and trying to enjoy that process or be mindful on your runs or listen to an audiobook or a podcast on your runs is sufficient to aligning your work, what you're doing currently, with your long-term vision for yourself or what you're wanting for your life. Again, it's okay to adjust it so long as it's still in alignment with what we're trying to get to. So if those priorities shifted, did you still gain something meaningful from your experience? And the T is for time bound. So what was the deadline that you set for yourself and was it met? So for example, if you plan to do a certain training or a certification and do that in 6 months, did you stay to that time frame? Did you stick with it? Or did you have to adjust it as needed? And if you didn't meet the, say, 6-month timeline, you finished it later, does that still count for you? So for example, sometimes I do these online business trainings and I am very bad about setting a goal for myself to do it in a certain amount of time. So then it just remains open and I work on it whenever. It would be much more effective for me to say, okay, Melissa, I'm going to do this training and I'm going to do it in 1 month or less or 2 months or less. And then I can reevaluate at the end of that time period and say, have I finished it or not? Why not? And how can I help myself to be more successful to get it actually done? Okay, so again, to go over those real quick, was it specific? Did you do it consistently? 2, was it measurable? Did you actually reach the metric that you set for yourself? 3, was it achievable? Did you complete that full version of the goal and it still felt meaningful to you in some way? 4, was it relevant? And if your priorities shifted, did it still give you something that helped you be in alignment with that long-term vision for yourself? And 5, was it time bound? And did you meet it within that timeline? And if not, is that okay? So those are just some examples of how you can set yourself up for success by being very specific and setting a SMART goal for yourself in the first place. It allows you to evaluate how you're doing throughout the process. And then it allows you to really look at how you did at the end to say, yes, this has been done and can be considered successful, or no, I still need something to work toward. I want to take a real quick second to talk about one of the things that I've been working on, and that is to be more mindful about getting veggies and greens into my diet. And one of the ways that I've been able to do that is by using something called Optimal Human Greens Powder. And it's a really tasty powder. It tastes a lot like green tea. I mix it into water, drink it once a day. I know that I'm getting all of the nutrients I need. They have over 90 ingredients in there. So I know I'm getting the good stuff that I need to fuel my body. And I can tell I'm getting the good stuff because I definitely feel more energized on the days that I'm good about actually taking it. I've done the whole habit stacking thing where I put it next to my coffee in the morning. So I get it mixed and I either take it with me or I drink it right then and there. But I've really noticed a difference for myself. So I'm really enjoying it. And now I'm telling other people about it as well. If you want to check it out, you can get your first month free with Optimal Human by using the link that I have down in the description or show notes, however you're listening, whatever platform that's on. So if you are someone who is also trying to get more of your greens and veggies into your diet and improving your physical health is something that you are working toward as well, check it out. I've got it down there for you today. Okay, so let's talk about what are some questions that you can ask yourself when you were reflecting on your success and asking if you truly met your goal. These are 4 questions that you can ask yourself. First of all, did I meet the specific and measurable criteria? If I did a good job of setting up a SMART goal, did I meet that criteria? Okay. So that one's short and sweet. You should be able to answer that yes or no without a problem. You don't have to get fancy there. Number two, did I feel a sense of accomplishment? And this one's a little bit different, right? For my example of the 75 hard, I had to adjust it a tiny bit where I said, you know what? Maybe some of my workouts aren't going to be outdoors. I'm going to be in the garage where it's not heated or cooled, and that's still uncomfortable. And so for me, getting 2 workouts in, even if one of them is in the garage, still feels like an accomplishment, is a big change from what I'm used to, and I'm really proud of myself. And so in that sense, I absolutely felt a sense of accomplishment, even though it was different than what I originally set out to do. Number three, did I learn something valuable? Even if I didn't meet the original goal exactly, did I learn something from that experience? And I would say, if you're really trying to be intentional about the things that you're working toward, of reaching your goals or working toward your goals, even if you don't meet it exactly, hopefully there is something that you should take away from that. That is a learning experience, learning about yourself, learning about what you're capable of, what you like, what you don't like. Maybe you were really excited to try knitting for the first time and you got started and you thought, I hate this. And that's okay. As long as you are learning something about yourself and you're taking the time to really reflect and be inquisitive and curious about what you're capable of or what you enjoy doing, I think there can be benefit from that. So was there something that I learned from this experience? And number four, if I reach the goal, do I feel done with it? Or does it need another phase? At the beginning of the episode, I said we're going to look at these as short-term projects that are in phases. And so if at the end of this timeline or this reflection point, you're asking yourself, do I feel like I finished this, or do we need to continue this into another phase? That's a good way of deciding if you have been successful with your short-term goal or not. When we're looking at phases, it's okay to say it's time to close this phase and move on in a different direction or to do something else. We don't need to keep the same project open for forever, an extended period of time. It's okay to say, yes, it's time to close this phase and move on to the next phase. And so that brings me to how we decide what is the next move. There's 3 different options that I've broken it down into that will help you decide what do you need to do next. When you've evaluated your goal, maybe you say, okay, I really like what I'm doing. I want to continue doing that. And that means you need to maintain it. So for example, if we're going with the running idea here and you are someone who wanted to just start having a habit of running on a consistent basis, you've been doing it for, a few days a week and you really like that. And it seems like it works well with your schedule and your routine and you want to continue that. Great. Maybe it's no longer considered a goal for yourself because you've done it, but maybe you want to maintain that and just keep that going. That is one option. Another option would be to level it up. So if we're going with that running example, maybe your goal was to run 2 or 3 days a week, and now you want to up that to 4 or 5 days a week. Or maybe your goal was to do a 5K, and now you want to go for a 10K or a half marathon, or maybe a full marathon, but it's still along that same goal. It still is aligned with your long-term vision for yourself, but now we're leveling it up, taking it to the next level, making it a little bit more intense, a little bit more exciting, a little bit harder, and still a challenge for you. The third option would be to either pivot or to celebrate. If you feel like you started knitting and you absolutely hated it, but you did it, you gave it a good shot, and now you say, I want to try needlepoint instead, it's okay to say, that goal was something that I did, but it wasn't for me. I don't want to do that anymore, and I want to shift directions. That is totally fine to do. Or you can just say, hey, I'm really proud of myself for knitting that purse, and I completed that project, and now I'm ready for the next hobby to try out. And it's okay to say, we're done with this. pat on the back for giving it a shot, but now I'm ready to move on to something else. It is totally okay to do that. So your options are to maintain it, keep it going. 2, level it up, make it a little bit more intense. 3, we're celebrating. 3 would be to, if you can't see me and you're just listening, for some reason the balloons just went off on the screen. So that's why I said we're celebrating. And 3 would be either to pivot or to just celebrate and then allow yourself to move on to something completely different. So I want you to take a moment real quick to do some self-reflection about something that you've been working on, one of your SMART goals that you've been that you have been working toward, and ask yourself if you feel like you have reached your goal or not. And if it's something that you want to continue or you want to level it up, or if you want to say, okay, we can close that phase and just move on. So ask, have you truly met your SMART goal? If so, what is the next step for you? Is it one of those 3 options, or maybe you have another option for yourself? And if you're still working on it, do you need to adjust what your goal is, how you've defined the goal? Do you need to modify it so that you have a new definition of success to feel excited about when you get there? It is totally okay to do that as long as your goal is helping you work toward that long-term vision for yourself. I cannot talk today. My words are being difficult. Is your short-term goal aligned with your long-term vision for yourself? That is what you are like fundamentally working toward, is getting to this version of yourself that you really like, or this version of life that you really like and you appreciate. Goals are helping you get to that point, at least in the context of how we're talking about them here. So I would encourage you, when you've figured out, you've done that reflection process, to share some of that either in the comments so you can encourage each other, or with me. If you'd like it to be more private, you can send me an email at heartandhealthpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you, love to have some of that discussion that we can carry on into future episodes. So feel free to do that. I do want to take another quick moment to tell you about an organization called We Are Ama. This is a women-owned small business who makes the most beautiful things for moms, especially new moms, including a breastfeeding cover that I absolutely loved, and they call it the Cocoon. It was not only breathable, which was really important for being in Florida, but it was also stylish and very comfortable for both me and for baby. And it allowed me to breastfeed in public in a very comfortable, confident way that I loved. So if you are a new mom and something like that sounds interesting to you, or maybe you know a new mom and you're looking for a great new mom gift or baby shower gift, I highly recommend you check them out. We Are Ama is offering you a 15% off discount your entire order if you use the code Melissa. And I've also included that link down in the show notes or in the description, whatever platform you are on. So take a look at that. Really love mine. Cannot recommend it enough. Your mom friends will also appreciate it. All right. And so that is what I'm going to close us out with for today. So just remember, your goals need clear endpoints. So as much as we need to be specific about what our goals are when we are setting them and getting started and evaluating throughout the process, there needs to come a time when you say, okay, did I do this or did I not? And what's my next step? And so as we're nearing the end of Q1, which is January, February, and March, now is a great time to be able to do that. Look at your goals. Have you met them? Do they need to be redefined? What do you need to do in order to move forward to really reach those long-term visions that you have for yourself for the year? Now, if you want more of a structured way to do that, I am hosting my end of Q1 workshop on March 28th, this Friday. If you're listening to this when it's coming out, it's going to be at noon Central Time. I have a couple of spots left. It's only open to 10 people. So it's going to be a nice, small, intimate group where we can really talk one-on-one about how you've been doing with your goals, what you need to do to adjust or be more successful or continue going on it in the same way that you're doing it if you're having a good success so far. If you want to sign up for that, I've got the link for that down below as well. So check that out. Next quarter, we're going to shift a bit. We were really spending a good amount of time in the last several weeks talking about goals, checking in with yourself, working toward your goals, and concluding that process of goal setting with today's episode. And next quarter, we're going to shift more into self-care, relationships, not burning out, being able to really take care of yourself with renewal and resilience. And so that's how we're going to kind of shift gears next week and moving forward in quarter two. That's all I have. It was a short episode. That's okay. Hopefully you took something away from it that you can apply, do those reflection questions with yourself. If it was helpful to you, please give it a good review on whatever platform you're watching or listening to. And I would also ask that you share the episode with at least one person who could also benefit from it. Thank you so much. Let me know how I can help you. And until I see you next time, take care of yourself and be well.